Hello, everyone. Today we're talking about the theory and practical application of using your fiber laser to achieve multiple shades of color from a single color of Cerakote. We're going to show you how to find your own settings, then we're going to show you a real example to hopefully spark your imagination and be able to apply this to your own Cerakoted pieces. First, there are a couple of things you should be aware of when following this video, and also to keep in mind for the sake of repeatability. Some of those things are going to be related to the Cerakote itself. So like the consistency in which that Cerakote is applied, how even you spray, the thickness that you spray, and even the color itself can affect the outcome. In order to find settings for any particular color, you will definitely need to know how to run a material test in LightBurn. Running a material test is going to allow you to see different samples at different settings and see what the laser is actually doing at those particular settings. For our testing purposes, we Cerakoted a handful of steel J-box covers. They're relatively inexpensive and you can coat them over and over again. So let's go ahead and create that material test in LightBurn. To do this, you can go ahead and go up to Laser Tools and down to Material Test. Here you can go ahead and set a variety of parameters here. So first and foremost, you can set the size of the grid in which we're looking at. The grid is going to look something kind of like this, okay? Depending on the settings that you use, it might look different, but you're going to have a series uh, of boxes all in a grid array. So we're going to go ahead and utilize, in this case, let's just say we're doing like an 8 by 8 grid here. We'll go ahead and start with somewhere around 65 minimum and 100 inches per second maximum, with our power being 16 and 30. I am choosing these because we already ran this test previous to this video, and so I'm just trying to mimic these settings. Although the test is in millimeters, I'm in inches. These are the pretty rough conversions. Now in the parameter box, you can set several different variables: speed, power, line interval, number of passes, and frequency. Speed and power are probably going to give you the widest range of results, but don't be afraid to experiment with interval or frequency. The height and the width values in the material test are going to represent the actual size of the particular box within the grid. Changing this size will make your test bigger or smaller overall. And then, of course, the Y center and the X center will adjust where it's placed. By default, it's going to be center of whatever your lens is. We are using a 220 millimeter lens, so 110, 110 is going to be dead center of that. So once you've determined what your variables are going to be and what the minimum and maximum of those variables should be, then you can go ahead and go to Edit Material Setting. When you click on this, you can change anything in here that you like. Just be advised that whatever your parameters are or your variables, those will be overwritten by the test. So since I'm using speed and power, whatever I put in speed and power right here will be null and void. It's going to take precedence on what's set in the test. Everything else in here can be set or adjusted. So definitely can change your constant values, such as your frequency, your line interval, um, number of passes, flood fill, auto rotate, all that kind of stuff. So once you have your material setting set, then you can go ahead and create a setting for the text. This can be pretty much whatever you want it to be. There's not a way to assign a material library setting to the material test, so you have to just know the settings, either copy them, or if you have a pretty good idea what's going to work, then you can use that. Generally speaking, since I'm on these J-box covers, I tend to just use the cut clean setting, or even just a pass or two of the clean. So 14 speed, let's say, I don't know, like 70 power, 20 kilohertz, um, 0.002 line interval is fine. And then, of course, just to make it look nice and neat, we could come over here, and I know the cleanup setting is 120 inches a second. 55% power and 45 kilohertz for the frequency. And of course, since we're on metal, 0.002. And you could auto rotate it or not. It probably doesn't really matter for the text, but anyway, you can go ahead and hit OK. And that's just going to determine how the text that labels the test is going to be engraved. You just want it to be visible and easily readable. The border setting, more than likely, you're not going to need. That's typically if you're trying to cut out your material test, probably more of a CO2 application. For fiber, I would just disable it. You can uncheck it, turn it off. So once you have those material settings and the text settings set, you can click on preview first and make sure that everything is looking the way you want it. If that all looks good, you can go ahead and hit OK. Then, of course, go ahead and click on frame. And you're going to make sure that it is framing where you want to. Make sure your focus is set, of course. And once you're lined up, you can go ahead and run the test. So I hit frame and I'm all lined up. So I'll hit start. And right now it's doing the cut clean for the numbers just to get them to pop against the paint and show pretty well. Now it's going square by square and marking it with the different settings. So unfortunately the audio didn't get captured, so you couldn't hear the cool little laser sounds. But um, that's how you do your material test, and then of course just reference whichever row and column you like to get a different shade. This is a time-lapse video of the design work that went into the upcoming example that we'll show you here in a second. The snakeskin graphic was vectorized first using the trace image function in LightBurn. Then different parts of the graphic were selected and assigned different layer colors. Each layer color will have settings assigned to it that, based on our material test, will achieve the different color variations that we want.